Recently, two mysterious smartphones have been under the spotlight. The Hyang 701 and the SamtaeSung 8, the flagship version, are two of the rarest phones in the world. That's because they have been secretly smuggled out of North Korea, and holding them is like holding a physical document that shows us in crystal clear detail what it's actually like to live as a North Korean citizen. The North Korean government's primary objective is to keep its entire population loyal and completely cut off from the outside world. And as we'll see, the North Korean smartphone is not a communication tool, it's a sophisticated, restricted, total control device. We don't have to dive very deep into the phone's settings to be able to see this. The most explicit form of control is baked right into the keyboards. For example, if you were to type the word for South Korea, the second you hit the spacebar, the system auto-corrects it. It doesn't just suggest another word, it forcibly changes it to puppet state. If you try other ways of wording it, like Republic of Korea, it often doesn't even get corrected, it just turns into asterisks, like if you were to put a swear word into a kid's game. The censorship is becoming more invasive over time. On the older hand phone, you could still type North Korea, but on a newer flagship, there's only one way you're allowed to refer to your own country. That is by using the traditional name, Choson. This shows a core commitment to sustaining a narrative that South Korea is an inferior, non-individual country, while the North is a more morally and military superior, prospering nation. The censorship goes even deeper than just place names. The devices are programmed to inject propaganda at a subtle, almost subconscious level. If you type the name of the current leader, Kim Jong-un, into any app, the second you finish the word, the text will be automatically set to bold. This is to emphasize his power, prowess, and stature. Even social language is controlled. If we type a common South Korean expression like oppa, which can mean older brother or boyfriend, the phone immediately corrects it to comrade. Even more unnerving is that the correction is accompanied by a literal warning that says, "This word can only be used to describe your siblings." This is about stamping out any indirect cultural experiences that originate from South Korean media. This level of ideological control leads us to the biggest factor in isolating the population, the internet situation, or really the lack of one. On the older hand phone, you can swipe down and see a quick settings panel that looks just like anything you'd get on a modern Android phone. It even has a Wi-Fi button, but when you press it, nothing happens. It's completely non-functional. And on the newer flagship, the Tamse, they have gone a step further and completely removed it. For obvious reasons, they don't want you to consider that feature being accessible at all. The only way to get something that even resembles Wi-Fi is through a system called Mir. This system requires extensive details from you, including your government ID and an authenticated North Korean physical SIM card. It's pretty safe to assume that everything you do while using it is traced right back to you. And here's the most important detail. Mir does not grant you access to global internet. All this can get you is access to a highly curated North Korean intranet. This internal network allows access to specifically government-approved propaganda, news, and apps. The app itself tells you to expect speeds between 2 and 33 megabits per second. That is less than 1/14 the speed that South Koreans get on their public Wi-Fi. The leaders understand that the second they grant access to the open World Wide Web, it's game over for controlling their population's thoughts and opinions. The lack of competitive pressure has a clear impact on the hardware. It's frankly quite sad to see the SamtaeSung 8 is a modern flagship, only released recently in 2023, and priced close to around $1,000. But in the end it looks like a mid-range Huawei phone from about 2021. Actually, the Huawei Nova 9 to be exact. We're talking about blatant design plagiarism. The camera module has an identical style and position, the body and screen curve in a seemingly identical way, even unique design elements like the red line in the power key or the cutout around the buttons, they're all exactly the same. After doing some digging, we know that this phone was manufactured in China, so there are two likely explanations. Either this was secretly supplied by Huawei themselves, or the North Korean SamtaeSung just decided to copy it. Why invest in R&D when there is no competition? Opening the camera app, the experience confirms the dated approach. The quality is extremely poor and grainy, and the two extra cameras on the back are rather useless, just including a macro lens and a depth sensor. This is a trend that the rest of the world abandoned many years ago. Furthermore, this flagship phone is stuck on Android 11. That makes it 5 years behind the current version, which may make sense. The simple logic for the regime is this: the more dated the technology, the simpler it is, and therefore the easier it's going to be to control. It's time to look at the software. An app on the home screen uses the literal Microsoft Word logo, but offers an extremely limited knockoff in terms of functionality. At least 50% of the icons are stripped directly from other companies, including File Manager and the compass from Huawei, and Maps being almost a one-to-one copy of Google Maps. Even the official SamtaeSung wallpaper is one of that literally downloaded from an Honor phone and basically had a number 8 slapped straight over it. The media available is equally controlled and stolen. Informational videos, like the one about Arsenal Football Club, look very professional, but look closer. This content is actually ripped straight from an Amazon Prime Video series. It's simply retitled and plastered with North Korean company logos, a company which could not have legally bought the license due to international sanctions by Amazon on North Korea. This censorship even plays out in games. The International Soccer League 2 is a game that has a roster accurate to 2022, but the most popular player from South Korea, Hyang, is intentionally missing. For a time he was one of the best in the Premier League playing for Tottenham Hotspurs, and his removal is done intentionally, done to prevent North Koreans from seeing the success that some South Koreans have with proper international sporting careers. There are also many government mandated apps. An app dedicated entirely to the biographies of past and current North Korean rulers. A general guidance app that offers laws, regulations and categories called Common Sense. This is an attempt to squash individuality by giving every citizen the exact same set of ideologies and learnings. Online gambling and sport betting are available surprisingly, but movies are heavily restricted, with no content from the US or South Korea. Instead, the catalogue is filled with content from Russia, a close political ally, and India, which is deemed exotic enough to be interesting without posing a threat to their culture. Perhaps the most staggering piece of control is how you get an app. You can download an app from their app store, but you can't open it until you've taken your phone to an in-person store, where an official will authorize it and download the necessary back-end data. Worse still, every app in North Korea does expire. This means that after 6 or 12 months, the app will lock you out and ask you to pay a subscription fee to renew it. This even applies for the state-made app, Laws of North Korea. In one of the poorest countries in the world, where the national income per person is just 3.4% of South Korea's, the concept of sustaining a large library full of apps is a luxury that very few can afford. All of this is policed by an underlying layer of surveillance software called Red Flag. This is baked into the lowest level of Android software, making it untraceable and impenetrable. Red Flag's core function is a digital signature check. Every file, app and photo you take has a digital signature that signals where and when it was taken or originated. But there is one final sinister surveillance feature. These devices take periodic undetectable screenshots as you're using them. They are stored in a hidden folder that you can look at, but you cannot click on them, check them or delete them. Therefore, if you are attempting to watch any outside or non-regime content, you will have a secret screenshot taken as evidence, potentially sent back to the government or used as evidence when in court. This then acts as the ultimate deterrent, since distributing and even watching South Korean entertainment and non-regime content is a guaranteed sentence to the death penalty. The North Korean smartphone is the most chilling example of a technology that is designed and reinforced for a single inescapable narrative that North Korea is superior, foreign influence is bad, and everything you do is being watched.